The gods must have been sleeping the day Adana agreed to the abomination. The sun stood still over the village of Umoweri, burning with a heat that felt like judgment. In the center of the dusty compound, surrounded by whispering palm trees, the impossible was happening. Adana, a girl whose beauty could make a blind man regain his sight, was kneeling before a monster. She was not kneeling to receive a blessing. She was kneeling to sign away her freedom. The man, if one could call him that, sat in the shadows of the thatched hut. The smell of rotting flesh and old sickness wafted out, choking the air. He was known only as the cursed one, an outcast leper banished to the edge of the evil forest. Yet, here was Adana, washing his feet. Her hands, usually so gentle, trembled as they touched the bandages. The villagers watching from a safe distance spat on the ground. They did not see a sacrifice. They saw madness. They did not know that the leper, watching her through the bandages, had eyes as sharp as an eagle and a heart that was testing the very soul of the village. The village of Umoweri was a village carved out of the red earth and ancient traditions. It was a place where the Iroko trees touched the sky, holding the secrets of the ancestors. The air always carried the thick, earthy scent of palm oil processing and the sharp tang of wood smoke. It was the planting season, a time when men's backs were bent over the soil and women's songs filled the air. But today, there was no song. The village square was tense. The dust settled on the corrugated zinc roofs and detached huts alike. Goats bleated lazily near the obi, and children stopped their play, sensing the heaviness in the air. Everyone knew everyone's business in Umoweri. If a man sneezed in the northern compound, a woman in the south would say, "Bless you." But today, the gossip was not light. It was heavy, dark, and full of judgment. The lamb and the viper. Adana rose from her knees, her wrapper stained with the dust of humiliation. She was 22, with skin like polished ebony and eyes that held an ocean of unshed tears. She was poor, yes. Her sandals were mended with wire and her blouse was faded from too much washing. But she had always held her head high, until now. Standing over her was Ugochi. Ugochi was the niece of the village high chief, a woman who wore gold like a second skin. She was beautiful, but it was the beauty of a freshly sharpened knife. Her expensive lace wrapper rustled as she moved, a sound that screamed wealth in a place of want. "Look at you," Ugochi sneered, her voice carrying across the compound. The princess of poverty, finally knowing her place. "I have done what you asked, Ugochi. Please, the money for Neka." "Money? You think you get the money now? No, you foolish girl. You get the money when the old man is satisfied. If he survives your cooking, that is." Adana looked up, terror in her eyes. "But the doctor said," "The doctor can wait, just like you will wait on him, hand and foot, day and night." She leaned in close, smelling of expensive perfume that clashed with the village air. "If you run, your sister dies. If you steal, your sister dies. If you speak back to me, well, you know the rest." 3 days earlier, the crisis had begun in the consulting room of the local clinic. The room smelled of methylated spirit and hopelessness. The ceiling fan clicked rhythmically, moving hot air around. Adana stood by the bed where her younger sister, Neka, lay. Ineka was a shadow of herself, her breathing shallow, her skin pale and clammy. The doctor, a kind man with tired eyes, had dropped the heavy news. "Her kidneys are failing, Adana. We need to transfer her to the city for a transplant. The deposit alone is 3 million naira. 3 million. Me might as well have asked for the moon." Adana had 40 naira in her pocket. Desperate, Adana had run to the compound of Chief Okeke, Ugochi's uncle and the richest man in the village. She found Ugochi sitting on the veranda, eating garden eggs and groundnut paste. Adana threw herself to the floor, Please, auntie, I will work, I will farm, I will do anything. Save my sister. Ugochi chewed slowly, swallowing before she spoke. She looked at her manicured nails, then at Adana's desperate face. You will work? Ugochi asked, raising an eyebrow. What is your work worth, Adana? You sell firewood. How many sticks of wood make 3 million? I will be your slave, Adana cried, for life. I have enough slaves, Ugochi dismissed her. But she paused, a wicked idea forming in her eyes. There is my uncle, the one in the evil forest, the one with the sickness that makes flesh rot. Adana froze. Everyone knew of the outcast. He needs a nurse, a wife actually, someone to clean his sores, someone to empty his bucket. It is a death sentence, of course. The sickness is contagious, but the chief has set aside money for his care. 3 million naira. Adana's silent response. Adana felt the blood drained from her face. To live with the leper was to become a leper. It was suicide. She looked at Ugochi's cruel smile. She thought of Ineka's gasping breath. Her chest tightened. The scream died in her throat. She lowered her forehead to the cold cement floor. My life for hers, she thought. It is a fair trade. 2 maids were sweeping the compound yard. They paused, leaning on their brooms. Did you hear? One whispered in pidgin. She won't give the deal to the rotten man. God forbid. That Ugochi is a witch. How person go wicked like this? Shh! If she hear you, now you go marry the leper next. They quickly resumed sweeping, heads down, heart heavy with the secret they had witnessed. Adana walked out of the chief's compound. Her legs felt like lead. The sun was setting, painting the sky the color of a bruise. She did not feel the gravel under her thin sandals. She only felt the weight of the coffin she had just built for herself.
The news spread like wildfire in the Harmattan season. By the next Ori market day, everyone knew Adana had sold herself. Adana went to the market one last time to sell her remaining firewood, to buy food for Neka before leaving. The market was loud, a cacophony of bargaining voices, crying babies, and clucking chickens. Adana had found a small corner to lay out her wood. A few customers were approaching. Ugochi, walking through the market with her entourage of sycophants, saw this. She could not stand seeing Adana having even a moment of commerce. Ugochi marched over, her heavy hips swaying. She stopped right in front of Adana's wares. Who is buying wood here? Ugochi shouted, clapping her hands to attract attention. The market fell silent. Do you not know who this is? Ugochi pointed a long accusatory finger at Adana. This is the wife of the living corpse. She has touched the leper. If you buy her wood, you buy his sickness. A woman who was about to pay for a bundle dropped the wood as if it were a snake. Hey, is it true? Look at her. The sickness is already on her. See her dry skin? See her red eyes. Ugochi stepped forward and kicked the neatly stacked bundles of wood. They scattered into the mud of the walkway. Away! Take your cursed wood away from decent people. Adana scrambled to gather her wood. Mud coated her hands. Tears burned the back of her eyes, hot and stinging. I am not sick, she wanted to scream. I am just hungry. But she bit her lip until she tasted iron. She said nothing. Now, wow, a yam seller muttered, turning his face away. This Ugochi get power, but she not get heart. Why the girl not talk back? Na prison, the seller replied. Make she go. Her bad luck too much. People began to give Adana a wide berth, covering their noses as if she already smelled of rot. Adana left the wood in the mud. She walked away empty-handed. Her stomach growled, a hollow reminder of her poverty. The dust of the market clung to her skin, making her feel dirty, just as Ugochi had said. The day of the move arrived. It was high noon. The heat was oppressive.
Adana carried her few belongings in a Ghana must-go bag on her head. The path to the evil forest passed through the village square. Ugochi had arranged a send-off. She sat with her friends under the big udala tree, drinking cold minerals and laughing. As Adana approached, Ugochi signaled the village children. "Sing for her," Ugochi commanded. "Sing the wedding song." The children, not fully understanding the cruelty, began to beat old tins and sing a twisted version of a marriage ballad. "Adana is going to her husband, the husband with no fingers, the husband with no toes. Kiss him well, Adana." Ugochi stood up and threw a handful of sand at Adana. "Go! Do not look back. You are dead to us now." One of Ugochi's friends threw a pure water sachet. It burst on Adana's chest, soaking her blouse. "Take a bath," the friend laughed. "You will need it." The water dripped down her chest, cold against her hot skin. Adana did not wipe it off. She fixed her eyes on the horizon, where the trees became thick and dark. "Walk," she commanded her legs. "Just walk." Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic prisoner. Papa Emeka, the palm wine tapper, sat on his bicycle. He shook his head. "This is an abomination. Since when do we mock the suffering?" "Keep quiet, old man," a young thug warned him, "unless you want trouble with the chief." Papa Emeka spat on the ground in disgust, but said no more. The village had lost its conscience. Adana passed the last hut. The sounds of the village faded, replaced by the ominous silence of the forest. She was alone. The trees seemed to close in around her, swallowing her whole. The compound was a ruin. The fence was broken, the thatch roof leaked, and weeds grew waist-high. In the center sat the main hut. It was dark inside. Adana entered the hut. The smell hit her first, a mix of stale sweat, medicinal herbs, and something rotting. In the corner sat a figure wrapped entirely in bandages. "Who is there?" a raspy, terrible voice croaked from the shadows. "It is Adana," she whispered. I am here to serve you." The figure threw a metal plate across the room. It clattered loudly against the wall. "I did not ask for a servant. I asked to be left to die. Get out." Adana flinched, backing into the wall. "Are you deaf?" the leper roared. He stood up, a towering, terrifying shape in the gloom. "They sent you to mock me, to watch the monster rot?" "No, Papa," she cried, falling to her knees. "Please, I need the money. My sister, she is dying. Let me wash your clothes. Let me cook. I will not look at you if you do not want." The leper paused. He breathed heavily, a wheezing sound. "You would stay, even with the smell?" "I have no choice," Adana whispered. She stayed on her knees, her forehead on the dirt floor. She was terrified. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the image of Neka's pale face held her in place like an anchor. There were no human witnesses here, only the lizards scuttling on the walls and the wind whistling through the cracks. But hidden in the rafters, a small camera lens, technology unknown to the village, blinked a tiny red light. The test had begun. Adana slept on a mat outside the door that night. The mosquitoes feasted on her. She cried silently into her arm, muffling the sound so the monster inside would not hear. 2 weeks later, Adana had established a routine. She walked before dawn to fetch water. The village stream was the only source. She tried to go early to avoid people, but the stream was already busy. Adana lowered her clay pot into the water. The water was cool and clear. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her. It was Ugochi again, this time with 3 large women, her bodyguards. The humiliation. "Do not let the water touch her pot," Ugochi screamed. One of the large women kicked Adana's pot. It flew out of her hands and smashed against a rock. Crash! You pollute our water, Ugochi yelled. You touch the leper, then you come here? Do you want us all to rot? I washed my hands with ash, Adana pleaded, her voice trembling. I am clean. You are never clean, Ugochi spat. She waded into the water and splashed mud all over Adana's face. There, now you look like what you are, a pig. If you want water, Ugochi sneered, drink from the gutter where the dogs drink. That is your level. The mud stung her eyes. She wiped it away slowly. She looked at the shards of her pot. It was the last good pot her mother had left her. They have broken everything, she thought. They have broken my pot, my name, my pride. A young mother washing clothes pulled her child away. Come, Junior, don't look at her. Is it true she is cursed? The child asked loudly. Yes, the mother lied, fearful of Ugochi. Stay away. The other women continued washing, scrubbing harder to drown out the sound of injustice. Adana walked back to the forest with half a gourd of water she managed to salvage from a puddle. It was muddy and brown. She boiled it 3 times before giving it to the leper, but she drank it dirty herself. She was too tired to care. The leper, who Adana now called Papa, had been quiet lately. He ate her food and allowed her to clean his bandages, which seemed less gross than she expected, though she was too respectful to pick. One afternoon, a car drove up to the forest edge. It was Ugochi in a brand new jeep. I have guests coming from the city, Ugochi announced, marching into the compound. My house help is sick. You will come and serve us. But Papa needs me, Adana said. The vegetable can wait, Ugochi snapped. She threw a bundle at Adana. Put this on. It was a maid's uniform, but it was 2 sizes too small. It was tight and short, designed to humiliate. Ugochi forced Adana to walk to the main house wearing it. In Ugochi's parlor, high society women sat drinking wine. Is this the one? A woman with a massive wig asked. Yes, Ugochi laughed. The leper's bride. Serve the drinks, Ugochi commanded. As Adana bent to serve, the tight skirt rolled up. The women cackled. Look at her legs, ashy. She smells like the bush. Ugochi stuck her leg out as Adana walked by with a tray of glasses. Adana tripped. The glasses shattered. Red wine shocked the white rogue. You clumsy fool, Ugochi slapped Adana. The sound echoed in the air-conditioned room. Lick it up. Lick the wine from the rug. Her cheek burned with the imprint of Ugochi's hand. She stared at the red stain on the rug. It looked like blood. I am a human being, she repeated in her head. I am a human being. Slowly, she bent down and began to dab the rug with a cloth. One of the city friends looked uncomfortable. Ugochi, that is enough. She is crying. Let her cry, Ugochi hissed. Tears cleaned the eyes. The friend looked away, checking her phone to avoid the scene. Adana was sent back to the forest in the dark, without pay, without food. Her cheek throbbed. She walked through the bush, the shadows dancing around her like ghosts. It was Sunday. Adana had not been to church in a month. She needed solace. She washed her one good dress, a faded floral gown, and walked to the village church. The service was full. The choir was singing. Adana slipped into the back row, trying to be invisible. But Ugochi was in the front row, sitting with the elders. She sensed Adana's presence like a shark senses blood. During the testimony time, Ugochi marched to the pulpit and whispered to the pastor. The pastor, a weak man who relied on the chief's tithes, nodded nervously. He took the microphone. Brethren, he said, his voice shaking, we have a situation. It has come to our notice that there is an unclean person in the congregation. He looked directly at Adana. Sister Adana, please, we cannot have contamination. The Bible says, separate the clean from the unclean. Please, wait outside. The whole church turned. 500 pairs of eyes. Ah, the congregation murmured. Now wow, even church? Mama Nkechi, the choir mistress, stopped singing. She looked down at her hymn book, shame burning her face. She knew it was wrong, but she needed the church stipend. She stayed silent. Adana sat on the steps outside the church, listening to the muffled prayers. She prayed alone, her tears wetting the dust of the churchyard. Adana was desperate. Ineka's condition had worsened again. She needed to buy expensive painkillers. She went to the village chemist. Ugochi was there, buying imported creams. Ugochi saw Adana counting her crumpled naira notes. It wasn't enough. Ugochi decided to deliver a fatal blow. She brushed past Adana, slipping her heavy gold bracelet into Adana's open tote bag. My gold! Ugochi suddenly screamed at the counter. My pure gold bracelet! It is gone! Lock the doors! She ordered the chemist. Search everyone! They searched the bags. When they upended Adana's bag, the gold bracelet fell out with a heavy clatter. Thief! Ugochi shrieked. She grabbed Adana by the collar. You ungrateful wretch! You steal from the hand that feeds you? I did not. I swear on my mother's grave. Strip her! Ugochi commanded the chemist's guards. She might have more hidden inside her clothes. Right there in the shop, they tore Adana's blouse. She tried to cover herself, crossing her arms over her chest. People peered through the glass windows, laughing and pointing. She closed her eyes tight. Let me die, she prayed. Please God, just let the ground open and swallow me. She felt the cold air on her skin, but the shame burned hotter than fire. Thief! The crowd outside chanted. See her face, innocent face, but wicked heart. A young apprentice in the chemist's shop looked closely. He had seen the swift movement of Ugochi's hand earlier. He opened his mouth to speak, but Ugochi glared at him. He closed his mouth. Fear was a powerful silencer. They threw her out into the street, half naked. She ran past the market, past the square, back to the safety of the monster's hut. The village AGM, annual general meeting, was approaching. This was when the chief would announce the new community projects. Adana was tending to the leper. He had been coughing blood. Ugochi wanted the land the leper lived on. It was prime land. She needed him dead, and she needed Adana blamed for it. She sneaked into the forest while Adana was fetching wood and spiked the leper's soup with rat poison. Adana returned and began to feed the leper. Suddenly, the village vigilantes kicked the door open. Ugochi was with them. Stop! Ugochi screamed. She is killing him. She pointed at the food. Test it. I saw her buying poison. They gave a spoonful of the soup to a stray dog outside. The dog convulsed and died within minutes. Murderer! The vigilantes grabbed Adana. They dragged her out of the hut. She wants to kill him, to steal his hidden money, Ugochi lied. They dragged her through the village, bound with ropes. They tied her to the great Iroko tree in the square. Tomorrow at the AGM, Ugochi announced to the gathering crowd, we will judge her, and then we will stone her. Adana looked at the moon. She had no tears left. She was hollow. She had tried to be good. She had tried to be strong. And for what? To die as a murderer. The village was in shock. To poison a sick man? She's truly a witch. Ineka heard the news on her sick bed and fainted. The darkness was complete. In the quiet moments between these storms, Adana's life was a small, silent war.
She ate roasted palm kernels because the market women refused to sell her yam. She washed her clothes in the dead of night, shivering in the cold stream. She watched her body grow thin, her collarbones protruding like coat hangers. "How long, O Lord?" she would whisper to the cooking fire. "How long would the wicked prosper?" Even the village dogs seemed to know she was an outcast, barking at her heels whenever she passed. It was 3 a.m. The village was asleep. The only sound was the hooting of an owl. Adana, still tied to the iroko tree, could feel her strength fading. Her wrists were raw from the ropes. She looked up at the starless sky. "God of the orphan," she rasped, her throat dry as sand. "Chi of my father, I do not ask for life. I do not ask for riches. I only ask for truth." She leaned her head against the rough bark of the tree. "They call me thief. They call me murderer. You know my heart, Lord. You know I only wanted to save Nika. If I must die, let Nika live. But please, do not let me die with this stain on my name. Send a helper, just one witness, just one voice to speak for me." Her tears fell onto the roots of the ancient tree. "I am tired, God. I cannot fight Ugochi. She has the gold. She has the power. I have nothing but my truth. And truth is not enough in this village." Her head slumped forward. Exhaustion took her. She drifted into a fitful sleep, dreaming of a lion that walked like a man, roaring at the gates of the village. The village was waking up for the AGM. Adana woke to feel a hand on her shoulder. She flinched, expecting a blow. It was a madman, the village lunatic, called Boda Wuli, who wandered the streets speaking in tongues. He was dirty, with matted dreadlocks, wearing layers of rags. "Adana," the madman whispered. His voice was not crazy. It was clear. He said the soup was black. "The woman with the shiny beads, she put the black powder in the pot when you were at the river." Adana stared at him. "You saw?" "I see everything," Woli said, tapping his temple. "The eyes of the mad see what the sane ignore." "They will not believe you," Adana wept. "They will say you are mad." "Madness is a disguise," Woli smiled, showing broken teeth. He slipped a small, strange object into her tied hand. It looked like a small, smooth stone, but it hummed with a strange vibration. "When the prince speaks, drop this stone." "What prince?" Adana asked, confused. "The lion is awake. Justice is a dish best served hot." Before she could ask more, Woli cartwheeled away, singing a nonsense song about yams and goats. Adana squeezed the stone. It felt warm. A tiny spark of hope ignited in her chest. Inside the forest, the leper was preparing. He stood up straight. He unwound the bandages from his face. Beneath the rotting cloth was smooth, healthy skin. Beneath the rags was the muscular frame of a man in his prime. He walked to a hidden corner of the hut. There, hidden behind a mask on the wall, was a high-tech camera lens. He tapped a tablet screen. The footage was clear, 4K resolution. There was Ugochi sneaking in. There was Ugochi pouring the poison. There was Ugochi laughing. Adana didn't know about the camera, but she felt a shift in the air. As the sun rose, the ropes around her wrists seemed looser. The birds sang louder. She remembered Woli's words. "The lion is awake."
She lifted her head. Today, she whispered, today it ends. The drums began to beat. The village elders were gathering. The chief arrived in his palanquin. Ugochi arrived in her G-Wagon, which she drove aggressively through the village paths, stepping out in high heels, ready to preside over the execution. The stage was set. The village square was packed. 2,000 people. The heat was intense. The elders sat in a semicircle on carved wooden stools. In the center, Adana stood, still tied to the tree, looking like a sacrifice. Ugochi took the microphone. She looked stunning in a red lace wrapper that cost more than the village's yearly harvest. Elders of Umuwere, we are here to cleanse our land. This girl tried to kill my uncle. She is a witch. Kill her, the crowd roared. Mob justice was thirsty. The witnesses were there. The chemist apprentice, the market women, Papa Emeka. They all watched, faces tight with fear and anticipation. The high chief stood up. Adana, before we pass judgment, do you have anything to say? Adana looked at the crowd. She looked at Ugochi. I did not do it, she said calmly. Her voice carried without a microphone. I served him with my heart. I washed his sores. I treated him like a father. The denial. Ugochi laughed, grabbing the mic. Lies! The devil is a liar. You wanted his land. Admit it. She turned to the crowd. Who supports justice? We do, the crowd shouted. Suddenly, a deep booming voice echoed from the forest path. Stop! It wasn't a shout. It was a command. The ground seemed to vibrate. The crowd turned. A convoy of black SUVs was approaching slowly. The villagers gasped. Government? Police? The SUVs stopped. Guards in suits jumped out. They rolled out a red carpet. Then the door of the main car opened. A man stepped out. He was young, perhaps 30, handsome, dressed in a flowing white agbada that shone in the sun. He wore the royal beads of the kingdom. It was Daniel, Prince Obinna Daniel.
The crowd went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Who is that? Ugochi whispered, her face losing color. The prince walked straight to the tree. He took a knife and cut Adana's ropes. He caught her as she stumbled. Sorry for the delay, my wife, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The prince turned to the crowd. You know me as the leper, the cursed one. Gasps filled the air. Eh? Impossible! I disguised myself, Daniel said, his voice hard as granite. My father, the king, wanted to know if there was any humanity left in this village. I came to test you. He pointed at the crowd. I found monsters. Monsters who mock the poor. Monsters who deny water to the thirsty. Then he pointed at Ugochi. And I found the devil herself. 2 guards set up a large projector screen. You say she poisoned me, Daniel asked Ugochi. Yes, my prince, I saw her, Ugochi stammered, sweating through her makeup. Watch, Daniel commanded. The screen flickered to life. The footage played. Ugochi entering the hut. Ugochi pouring the poison. Ugochi laughing. Die, old fool, die. Jesus! A woman screamed. See wickedness. The market women put their hands on their heads. Chai, Ugochi. The chemist apprentice shouted. She planted the gold too. I saw her. Yes, another voice cried. She broke the pot at the stream. The high chief stood up, trembling. He looked at his niece. Ugochi, you tried to kill my brother. Ugochi fell to her knees. Her red lace was now dragging in the dust. It was a mistake. It was the devil. Prince, please, we are high society. We are the same level. She tried to crawl toward Daniel. Don't touch me, Daniel said, stepping back. You are unclean. Daniel looked at the high chief. In the old days, she would be banished to the evil forest. But I am a modern man. He snapped his fingers. The police stepped forward. Attempted murder, framing an innocent, theft. But before the police take her, Daniel said, she has a debt to pay. He looked at Adana. What do you want, my queen? Adana looked at Ugochi, kneeling in the dust, makeup running, nose running, the woman who had made her eat from the floor. I want her to know, Adana said softly, that nobody is God. Daniel nodded. Ugochi, you made her walk without shoes. You will walk to the police station, barefoot, in the sun. The crowd cheered. Yes, walk! The police handcuffed Ugochi. They took her shoes. Her expensive heels lay in the dust. She began the long walk, weeping. The children, the same ones she had commanded to mock Adana, now ran after her, singing, Ugochi the wicked, going to prison, bye-bye, bye-bye. Adana did not laugh. She buried her face in Daniel's white agbada and wept the last of her tears. The relief was the physical weight lifting off her shoulders. The silence after the police sirens faded was heavy. The villagers looked at Adana with fear and shame. Mama Nkechi stepped forward. Adana, my daughter. Don't, Adana said gently. Just be kind next time. Daniel helped Adana into the SUV. Let's go get your sister. 6 months later, the Harmattan wind had returned, but this time they brought joy. A brand new Range Rover drove into Umuwiri. The windows rolled down. It was Adana. Her skin was glowing. She wore a wrapper of blue velvet. Next to her sat Nneka, healthy, chubby, and laughing. The transplant in London had been a success.
They drove to the site of the old leper's hut. It was gone. In its place, construction had started on a massive free hospital. The Adana Medical Center, the sign read. The villagers watched in awe. Adana waved at them. She did not wave with arrogance, but with grace. The market women who had refused to sell to her now rushed to offer her the biggest yams. My queen, take for free. Adana paid them double. I am not Ugochi, she told them. I pay for what I take. She stopped by the stream. The rock where her pot had been broken was still there. She saw a young girl, poorly dressed, struggling with a heavy bucket. Adana stepped out of the Range Rover. She walked to the girl. She lifted the bucket for her. Thank you, ma, the girl gasped. Never let them make you feel small, Adana whispered. You are a queen in waiting. Antagonist fate. Ugochi was in Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison. They say she washes toilets there now. The other prisoners call her Madam High Society as they make her scrub the floors. The lesson to be learned from this story is wickedness is a boomerang. Ugochi threw stones at Adana, but those same stones returned to break her own head. Be careful what you do to people who cannot fight back. Their tears go straight to God, and when God replies, He does not miss. Condition is not permanent. Today you are crying, tomorrow you will be laughing. Adana was a slave yesterday, and today she is a CEO's wife. Never give up on yourself just because your today is hard. Your tomorrow is pregnant with greatness.
The bystander is also guilty. The villagers who watched and did nothing were just as bad as Ugochi. When you see evil and stay silent, you are supporting the evil. Speak up. Defend the weak. Divine justice is real. You can hide from man, but you cannot hide from God or 4K CCTV. What is done in the dark will surely come to light. Live a life that you can be proud of when the lights are turned on. Our elders say, the river that forgets its source will dry up, but the patient dog eats the fattest bone. Thank you for reading this powerful story of Adana and Prince Daniel. We hope it touched your heart and reminded you that God is still on the throne. Now, I want to ask you, if you were Adana, would you have forgiven the villagers?
Or would you have punished them too? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Please, if this story blessed you, click that like button, share it with your friends, your enemies, and your village people. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. We have another explosive story coming next week. May your helpers locate you. May your mockers become your workers. And may you never lack oil on your head. Stay blessed.